All right, just getting set up here. Just a moment. Just uh, Baby. With some stuff around yesterday. Got our tree set up, so change of scenery. Uh, Actually, this is what I used to make my videos. Then boys kind of commandeered this room, and now we moved their beds back into the other rooms. So anyway, go ahead and get started here. Let's see. Presentation pulled up. Today should be a pretty quick lesson and short and powerful because it's something that's really helped me along my journey and something that my coach talked a lot about. A couple different concepts actually that will help to really lock in what your strengths are to help you really hone what it is that makes you you essentially. It gives you that oomph. Basically, understanding how to tap into your strengths and also knowing what your weaknesses are so that you know what to focus on, what to outsource, and what direction you even need to go. Go and do a screen share here. All right. So today we are unlocking your genius code. And this is from the author of, I believe the book is called The Big Leap. I think is what it's called. And that's where a lot of the concepts come from that gave me the inspiration to do this talk. So, liberating and expressing your natural genius is your ultimate path to success and life satisfaction. Your zone of genius is the set of activities you are uniquely suited to do. Picture of a genius and just making all those connections. It's like once you find the thing that really lights you up, you start to connect the dots. You start to see things that you never saw before. It's like you start to unravel a mystery, like you're a detective, but you're the detective of your own life, and you're learning how to deliver this message, this powerful message to your audience. You're learning how to really tap into that essence that makes you you, that gives you your power, that gives you your strengths. So we're all born in this world with a certain set of talents. Like, there's just some things that people do that are just naturally gifted at that you can't really teach. It's just like it comes naturally. Like our 7-year-old, he's super passionate about robotics. And it's like ever since because I'm not his dad by blood, but I've known him ever since he was 3 or 4. And he ever since I've known him, he's just been super into like technology and wanting to build robots. And honestly, it's like he was actually a big reason why I decided to do this talk today. Because I was going to do it on something else. And then he got to talk. I was talking to him, and there's something he said that like triggered in my brain. It was like talking about like something to do with an engine or something to do with like a motor. He's like, you don't know how that works? I could show you. Like he was just, I don't know, it was like how he said it. And it like, I don't know, it just triggered something in me and it sparked, oh, I could do, I feel like it would be a really powerful talk to focus on that, to talk about that, our zone of genius. because ever since I've known him, like I said, he's been super into robotics, super into all this technology, and like eventually I want to get him in, we want to get him into like a coding boot camp and learning how to build robots, that type of stuff. And it really inspired me and got me to think that this is something that other people need. This is something that is a good reminder for anyone to have, truly, that we're all on our own path and we all have different strengths and different weaknesses, and learning how to combine all of those to work within the realms of our strengths and our weaknesses, to know our limits and to know what we need to outsource, what we need to focus on, what we need to do to shift our lives, and what we need to do to, what kind of career path that we want to take based off of the strengths that we have. It's all really important. And once we understand and become aware of those strengths and weaknesses within us, we can start to navigate our lives a lot easier. So as always, I'm going to tie this back into divine masculinity. So how does this relate to divine masculinity? Well, basically, divine masculine man is in tune with himself. He understands his role and his purpose in the world. He understands what role he needs to play and when to when to push and when to back off, when to get help and when to buckle down and figure it out himself. He understands that balance because he has this acute awareness of himself, of of his talents, of his weaknesses, of his strengths, of the skill sets that he has, that he's developed. Because the skill sets that we have are play a huge role as well. The skills that we learn throughout our lives can completely change everything for us in the direction that we go, for the good or bad. Now, like something that Eric Thomas says is you may only need to know something that you learned one time in your life, but that one time could save your life. It's a really powerful concept because you don't know when you'll need a skill, something that you learn. You don't know when it will play into your life and play a bigger role in your life later on. It might seem completely irrelevant and something that you'd never use, but as you progress through this journey, it's like pieces of the puzzle begin to fall into place. And things start to click because you've learned all these skills, you've learned all these pieces of knowledge and information throughout time, throughout your life experience. And also, through your experiences, you gain a lot of insight, a lot of wisdom. And so you get to a point in your life where you have all these pieces of knowledge, these pieces of wisdom, these experiences that have guided you, that have molded you into who you are today. And you're able to give that back to other people. You're able to give that medicine back to the world because you've come to understand an aspect, a deeper element of yourself that it basically gives you an energy. Like it gives you a, I mean, really a piece of the puzzle. It's like there's so many pieces of the puzzle that we need in order to fully live our highest purpose. Each piece of the puzzle that you get, you don't know when you'll get that piece of the puzzle, but eventually it's going to come into play. And I believe that everything that we do is a stepping stone anyway. Even if you do something that doesn't necessarily translate further in life, it doesn't translate into a skill set or it doesn't translate into a career, later on in life. You may have learned or met somebody or just had an experience that showed you what not to do that could have completely changed the trajectory of your life. And once you become aware of these things, once you develop that sense of awareness about what you're experiencing, how it plays a bigger role in your life, then you begin to piece these puzzles. They begin to fall into place naturally without you even trying. It just starts to make sense. Sometimes it takes a long time for that to really click. And I'm somebody that I feel like I need a lot of different perspectives in order for it to really click in my brain. Because if I just hear one perspective, for instance, then I'm just getting that person's subjective view of the situation, of whatever experience they may have had. You know, the insights that come from their experience or their perspective. But when I have like five, six, seven different perspectives on the matter, it gives me a chance to see what options I have, and I start to reframe the situation in my mind. Not only do I have a lot of different options to choose from, not even necessarily to choose from, but just to analyze the situation with. It's like I can have them all laid out there. And from that, I'm able to analyze and connect that back to myself. And so I start to form my own opinion. I start to form my own subjective experience, my own subjective perspective on the matter. And from all these different perspectives, I can draw my own perspective. I can draw my own conclusions. And I start to understand the situation a lot better. I start to understand what I'm working with. I start to really see it from many different angles to where I can really connect the dots, which it takes me longer, generally speaking, than most people to learn something, to really solidify that into my being. But once I do, it's solidified, it's there. It's like once I fully step in and do something, I might suck at it at first, but once I actually really get good and I really tap into it, I become like the best. If I really focus my energy on that. And that's, you know, even having that perspective, even having that aware level of awareness is key because it gives me the ability to tap into my own zone of genius. It gives me that edge to be able to see what I need to do, to see how to give that back to the world. So if you first of all, I wanted to start with the Ikigai because I was talking about should have actually did it the opposite way, but I kind of wanted to do it this way first because it's leading into what your zone of genius is. So the Ikigai really helps to understand how it all ties together. So if you know what you love and what you're good at, then you can start to really understand what you could be paid for based off of what the world needs. There's so many pathways in life that you can take. There's so many things that you can do with your skill set. And we all have a wide variety of skills that we probably aren't even aware of. There's skills that we have that we don't necessarily use every day, but there are jobs and career paths out there that that encompass those skills. And once we understand the different ways that they connect, the different skills that we have, the different ways that they connect to some sort of job or career. It's like doing I wanted to put on here but I forgot because I was in a rush. But it was like I'm trying to think what it was called. Is it the Briggs? I don't know if it's the Briggs test that I'm thinking of. But I remember in college, trying to think of what it was called. I did one of those tests where you answer all the questions, and based off of the answers that you give, it gives you like a full detailed outline, a full detailed report of how your skills and how your strengths and your weaknesses can help you to find a career path that suits you. And I feel like those tools are really powerful because they help you to see the different ways that you embody different values or different skills or different uh, it's a word that I'm thinking of. It's like I want to say principles, perhaps is the word. I don't know if that's quite the word, but like the principles that you embody connect to some sort of job. So, for instance, something like I was going to say even like I don't know, honesty and piecing together puzzles, those two things. Like if you really like solving mysteries, for instance, and you're someone that's really honest, and you might be drawn to wanting to be a detective because you love solving mysteries and you are committed to finding the truth. So maybe these different skills tie in together to help give you a wider range of what is possible and what you could do. For me, it was I believe I was talking about doing like some sort of therapy work or like being a coach, basically what I'm doing now. However, I was going to school to be an engineer. So like at the time, I wasn't necessarily connecting. So for me, um, well, actually, I'll get to that in the next slide. But so basically, it was pointing me towards that path that I needed to go because it was telling me based off of the skills and the things that I'm drawn to and the way that I carry myself, the way that I see the world, it's like all tied together to form an analysis of other possible options that I could do, other possible career paths that I could take. And it's just important really to get different perspectives, to get feedback on on your life and yourself, and to get feedback on the different skills and how they tie into the jobs that are out there. Sometimes it's hard for us to see. It's hard to see the painting when you're in the painting. So having some sort of test or even like if you have a coach or somebody to talk to, having a third person perspective, a bird's eye view of the situation could really be a game changer for you. And this ties in with the next thing that I want to talk about, which is the zone of genius. This comes from the book The Big Leap. So I haven't actually read the book, but my coach, we did a lesson about this, and it really stuck with me because it showed me the ways in which we can apply these skills directly and the different things that we're good at and how they tie into other aspects of the world, or rather, how they tie into what we should be doing and how to break through that limit. And I found this online. This is a really good depiction because oftentimes what happens is we get stuck in our comfort zone. We get stuck in this loop and it becomes so difficult to break out of. It's like, even if we know what we want to do, because we're in this cycle, this loop, we keep falling back into the same patterns. We keep falling back into the same habits. And we fall into the comfort zone of oftentimes the things that we might be good at, and we're not necessarily super passionate about. And so we never truly break through that barrier to excel and to become the genius that we are, to truly tap in to our untapped potential, and to harness that so that we can blossom and become the butterfly, like breaking out of the cocoon, becoming that butterfly. Until we tap into our zone of genius, then we're still going to be that caterpillar that's waiting to transform. We might have a ton of breakthroughs, but we aren't truly doing the thing that we were meant to do. And so I just want to go down the list here, working from the bottom up. So first off is the zone of incompetence. It's often generally something you don't really know how to do and you're not that good at doing. So, I mean, this could be anything, but I mean, it could be just some dead end job that you have to do every day, but you don't enjoy doing. You don't like it. You're not good at it. And, you might be able to move up to the zone of competence with this because if you do it long enough, you're going to understand how to do it, but it doesn't mean you're going to like it, which leads into the next one, zone of competence. It might be something that you're good at somewhat, something that you know how to do rather, but you don't really enjoy it. It doesn't really light you up. You don't really have that passion about it. So even if you know how to do it, others know how to do it better. And there's other things out there that you can do that will excite you, that will light you up, which leads to the next one, your zone of excellence. So this is something that you're not only good at doing and enjoy doing, but it's it brings out an aspect of you. That is, I would say, leading you towards your zone of genius. It's like it often incorporates a lot of things that you enjoy, a lot of things that you are good at. So it includes often a lot of maybe skill sets that you have, talents, but more times than not, it's there's like a barrier that you reach, and that's I like the depiction that they have here because it's like you reach a plateau to where you're not really able to break through that. There's always something blocking you, and the thing that's blocking you is yourself because this isn't what is in store for you. This isn't in alignment with your highest vision, your highest purpose. I mean, you can be, really good at this thing, but it's not something that you want to get up and do every single day. It's not something you want to spend the rest of your life doing. That's why it's called the zone of excellence, because you may be excellent at what you do, but you may hate it. I mean, generally, if you hate it, you're probably not going to be the zone of excellence, but could be. I mean, I've seen plenty of people that have gotten so used to doing something for so long that they become really good at it. And maybe you're a salesperson that hates doing sales, but you're the top of the team because you just have that work ethic. You just have figured out things that others haven't, but you just don't really enjoy it. And that's what often leads to burnout And when you get to this point, you're going to eventually burn out. So no matter how good you are at it, you can't force yourself to like it. It just doesn't, it's just not something that aligns with your essence, who you truly are at the core. The thing that truly lights you up and brings your spirit to life, which leads to the next point, your zone of genius. This is something that does bring you alive. It really brings out that untapped potential within you. And you break through that limit, that barrier that's been holding you back. You break through and you start to see the world through a different pair of eyes. You start to really tap in and get in a flow state because you're doing what you love. You're understanding aspects of yourself that's it's like it's like it continues to compound and build on itself. It continues to grow. It's like this mountain or like a almost like a snowball effect. It's like it's the snowball's going down, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger because as you learn something, as you learn a new aspect of this, it lights you up even more and it like pushes you even further. And then that leads you somewhere else and that pushes you even further and you just continue to grow and expand and evolve. And it's like it's this never ending cycle that's just incredible. Like it's something that you just love. And that's what we all ultimately need to be working towards is that zone of genius. Because when we tap into that, that's the stuff that dreams are made of. That's when your vision starts to truly come to life. You start to manifest the things that are in alignment with your highest purpose, your highest self, the essence of who you are. You start to really, it's like you've hacked, like you've accessed the code of of this matrix reality and you start to like really evolve in ways that you've never experienced before. And this is ultimately where we want to get to. And if we utilize this concept with the Ikigai, we can start to understand that using these concepts, it can help us piece together the puzzle so that we can step into that zone of genius. We can start to live our lives from that space. And then just a few things to consider here, just to wrap it up. Where do you feel most determined? And what is your vision of the future looking through the lens of your highest timeline? So when you think about the life that you truly want to live, like what truly lights you up when you think about the kind of life you would want to live, kind of things you would want to be doing every day, what does that look like to you? What does that feel like? What skills and abilities will you be using every day? We want to focus on we want to focus on compounding growth through developing our skill set, utilizing these tools such as the Ikigai and the Zone of Genius. I couldn't think of the name of it for a minute. So utilizing these tools will help you to compound your skill set, to compound every day and build upon itself. It's like if you have compounding interest uh, in a stock, it starts to build that interest. It starts to build up over time. And eventually you're going to have enough to where you can invest that elsewhere. Yeah, like Bitcoin, I guess. My partner's showing me Bitcoin for dummies. Yeah. which I mean, which that's a something as well. Like that compounds. I mean, Bitcoin has grown a shit ton. And I used to have Bitcoin and lost it because I was an idiot and fell for a scam. Um, but yeah, it's like if you had one Bitcoin back when it first started, you'd be a millionaire right now. And that's like it's compounded over time. It's compounded that growth. And if we do this for ourselves, we start to compound just like a building. You have to build one floor at a time and think about each building, rather each floor that you build has a different purpose, has a different set of skills that it involves. So as you're building upon this foundational structure, it's compounding, it's like compounding growth because every level you go up is going to essentially return that back to you tenfold if you utilize it correctly. If each floor is designed for a specific purpose and you start to, say, trying to think of a concrete example, but like if you have each floor outsourced and you have the correct team in there that is tapping into their zone of genius and you're allowing them to utilize their own skill set, their own strengths, and not necessarily focusing on their weaknesses, but like utilizing their own strengths, every floor is going to thrive and it's going to just, it's going to be an incredible amount of growth for your business, assuming that like this is a business that you own. So I like that metaphor because it helps to really wire it in and how this really compounds on itself because like I mentioned earlier, you never know when you're going to need a skill that will that could save your life later on, that could be a game changer for you if you didn't have that knowledge before. And it's like just popped into my head the Steve Jobs. He was in an art class. He was learning, I believe it was calligraphy. It was about learning about certain types of writing styles. And he was taking these art classes and he was tripping on like acid. So he was tapping into his like creative aspect, but through that he was able to come up with one of the most um, I mean, it's one of the biggest companies in the world right now. And it happened because he was doing something completely different. He was doing art. He was tapping into his artistic capabilities. I mean, essentially it comes from the imagination because he came up with the ideas, but he was utilizing different skills and he was learning different things that ultimately led him to creating what Apple is today. And we have that same ability. You never know what type of skills you might need. You might be learning right now that you might need later on. And and that actually leads me to the next thing I was going to talk about. I really like this concept of bringing your skills together, your strengths together in a way that maybe that strength in isolation isn't as powerful, but when you combine it with other strengths that you have, even if it's not like a major strength, you can start to tie them together and you start to create something new. One of the examples here is comes from Scott Adams, the creator of the comic Dilbert. Although she didn't consider herself really much of an artist, she drew better than most people. And even though she wasn't a comedian, she was funnier than most people. So the magic was in bringing the two together And now it's one of the biggest comic books. I mean, I'm just about everybody's heard of it. It's in like the Sunday papers, I believe. I don't really read the newspaper, but I still remember it from when I was a kid. And um, it's interesting to think about because there's so many things that we can learn, so many concepts, so many new ideas, and even just understanding ourselves and understanding what lights us up and understanding how we have always been, how we've always acted in certain situations and how certain situations bring out aspects of us and combining all that together and bringing it all back to ourselves, back and combining it brings out different aspects of it. It's like when you're doing chemistry and you combine different elements, it creates new compounds. It creates some elements you mix together are going to have a chemical reaction. Some have a physical reaction. Some don't react at all. So when we think about our lives in that way, and we combine these different skills, these different strengths, then we can start to create these chemical changes, these chemical reactions. Oh, Peter. So yeah, we can create these chemical reactions because we combined two things that essentially create a new concept or a new idea or a new skill set that really helps bring us to life and like lights us up. And it's unique. It's different. And what's important is that it's tapping into your own untapped potential. So that's all I have today. I felt like that was something that really it just channeled and it came through, and I was called to do it on this. I'll probably do the initial one that I was going to work on next week, but this I felt it in my gut. Like as soon as our son was talking about just like the different strengths, the things that he likes, the thing that he's good at, it got me thinking that's something that I feel like I should talk about. And that's something that I should honestly think about in my own life because it's something that we forget because we're so used to doing the same thing. I wouldn't say doing the same thing every day, but we get stuck in these loops. And even if we are moving forward, it's like there's different cycles, there's different stages of the journey that we get stuck in. And so being able to frame it in this way gives us a new set of skills, or rather a new set of perspectives to look through, new lens to look through, so that we can see a broader picture of what we truly have to offer, how we can give that back to the world. Anyway, it has been a pleasure being on this journey with you, my friends. It's so great to connect with all of you, as always. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day and keep on striving to unlock that genius code within you. Peace, love, namaste.